All right, we're diving deep today into Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Definitely a deep one.
This book, well, it's not exactly a light read, is it?
Not really, no.
It really digs into how people can find meaning in the darkest of places, even in like concentration camps.
Yeah.
Frankl actually went through that himself, and he combines his own experiences with this, I guess you'd call it revolutionary approach to psychology, logotherapy.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating combination of the personal and the clinical, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he really doesn't hold back on the details of what he went through.
No, not at all. And it makes you think, right?
Absolutely. It's pretty impactful, that's for sure.
One thing that really got me was how he described that selection process
Oh, yeah.
with the SS officer just like flicking his wrist to decide who lived and who died.
It's chilling, isn't it? Like, it just shows how completely arbitrary survival was in the camps.
Totally. It was all just up to chance, really.
And the prisoners, they had absolutely zero control over their own fates.
You get a real sense of that powerlessness, that lack of control reading it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that plays a huge role in those psychological effects he observed.
Yeah, speaking of those, I mean, that's a big part of what makes the book so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of breaks down the prisoner's experiences into these three distinct phases, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Can you walk us through those a little?
Sure. So the first one is, well, it's shock, right? That initial hit of disbelief.
I can imagine.
When you arrive at the camp, it's just total disorientation.
It's hard to even wrap your head around it.
Yeah, like being ripped away from everything, stripped of your identity, thrown into this world where, basic humanity doesn't even seem to apply anymore.
It's almost too much to even process.
Right, and that kind of leads into the second phase, which is apathy.
Okay.
And this is where emotional detachment starts to set in,
Yeah.
as a way to cope.
Makes sense in a way.
Like, the mind can only handle so much horror before it starts to just, shut down.
It's a defense mechanism, I guess.
Exactly. And Frankl, he describes it in such a stark way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he talks about a prisoner just stepping over a dead body as if it were nothing, just another obstacle in his path.
Wow.
It's chilling to see how people adapt to these, utterly dehumanizing conditions.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these first two phases, shock and apathy, which are just, well, they're pretty bleak.
Yeah.
But then there's this third phase that Frankl talks about, right? Where some people, even in this horrible environment, they actually manage to find some meaning.
Right, and that's really the core of what Frankl's trying to get across.
How does that even happen?
He noticed that a small group of prisoners, himself included, they found this sense of purpose in the midst of all the suffering.
Wow.
It wasn't about pretending the horror wasn't there. It was about finding a way to, rise above it.
Okay.
He talks about finding solace in small acts of kindness,
Little things.
Yeah, even moments of beauty or even humor sometimes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like, he tells this story about one prisoner who found comfort by imagining a reunion with his wife.
Oh.
Even in that horrible place, love and his inner life, they gave him strength.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It shows that the human spirit, it can find solace even in the bleakest of situations.
Absolutely. So you have these people finding meaning even in a place designed to strip away all hope.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us to Frankl's whole theory of logotherapy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
So logotherapy basically says that what really drives us as humans, it's not pleasure like Freud thought,
Right.
or power like Adler believed. It's this will to meaning.
Interesting, especially considering where he came up with this idea.
Totally. It goes against a lot of other schools of thought in psychology.
For sure. Could you maybe break that down a little more? Like, how is logotherapy different?
Okay, so let's say someone's dealing with a lot of anxiety, right?
Okay.
Now, a Freudian psychologist might look into their unconscious drives and repressed desires, while an Adlerian might focus on feelings of inferiority and, that drive for power.
I see.
But logotherapy, it asks a different question. What gives this person meaning in their life? What purpose are they striving for?
It's a different angle for sure.
Yeah, it shifts the focus from internal conflicts to the individual's connection with the world.
Interesting.
Frankl's experiences in the camps, they made him realize that even when you're stripped of everything else, humans can still find meaning and purpose.
Makes sense.
And that this search for meaning, it's a fundamental part of who we are.
So if this drive for meaning is so fundamental, what happens when we can't find it?
That's where the existential vacuum comes into play.
The what?
The existential vacuum's like this feeling of emptiness, meaninglessness that comes up when we don't have a sense of purpose.
Okay.
And Frankl, he didn't think this was just, a problem for people in extreme situations.
Oh.
He thought it could affect anyone, even in, seemingly comfortable modern lives. Like, think about someone who has it all materially, but still feels empty inside.
Yeah.
That's the existential vacuum at work.
So even in our quote-unquote comfortable lives, we can still experience this emptiness.
Absolutely.
So how do we deal with that? Like, how do you actually find meaning, according to Frankl?
Well, he suggests three main ways. Creating work or doing a deed.
Okay.
Experiencing something or encountering someone.
Okay.
And finding meaning in suffering that you just can't avoid.
That last one is interesting.
Yeah, it's about not denying the bad stuff in life, but finding a way to, make meaning out of it, to let it transform you.
That sounds like it ties into his whole concept of tragic optimism, right?
Exactly. It's about recognizing the tragic elements of life, pain, guilt, death, but not letting them defeat you.
So it's not about being happy all the time.
No, not at all. It's about finding meaning even when things are tough and using those experiences to grow.
I like that.
He contrasts this with, he tells this story about American soldiers in the Korean War.
Yeah.
They were coping by focusing on instant gratification, cigarettes and stuff.
Okay.
And Frankl saw that as, kind of empty compared to finding deeper meaning in tough situations.
So tragic optimism isn't about chasing fleeting pleasures.
No, it's about facing challenges head on and coming out the other side changed for the better.
So how does this tragic optimism actually work in therapy? Did Frankl have any specific techniques he used to help people find meaning in their suffering?
One he was known for was paradoxical intention.
That sounds a little complicated.
It might sound counterintuitive, but it's basically encouraging patients to wish for the very thing they're afraid of.
How does that work?
It's about breaking that cycle of anxiety and gaining some control over their fears.
I see. Can you give us an example of that in action?
Sure. Frankl talks about this patient who had terrible insomnia.
I've been there.
Right. The more this person tried to sleep, the more anxious they got about not sleeping, and it just made things worse.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
So what does Frankl do? Well, he used paradoxical intention.
Meaning?
Instead of telling the patient to try to sleep, he told them to try to stay awake as long as possible.
Wow, that's interesting.
It completely flips the script, right?
Totally.
And the result? Well, by focusing on staying awake, the patient's anxiety actually decreased.
I guess that makes sense.
And ironically, they ended up falling asleep naturally.
Wow, so it's about changing your perspective.
Exactly. It shows how powerful our minds can be.
Yeah, we can get in our own way sometimes.
For sure. Our minds can be like prisons.
And logotherapy, with techniques like this paradoxical intention, helps unlock those prisons.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, and we're really just scratching the surface of man's search for meaning.
There's so much more to unpack.
But I think it's worth taking a minute to just reflect on what we've talked about.
Yeah.
Frankl went through these truly horrific experiences in the camps, but he found a way to make meaning out of them.
It's incredible.
And that led him to develop logotherapy, this idea that what drives us is this search for meaning, and that even in the darkest times, we can still find it.
The book is just full of these powerful stories and insights that really make you think about suffering and resilience in a new way.
It really sticks with you, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It's not just about enduring suffering. It's about finding meaning in it, using those experiences, the good and the bad, as opportunities to grow.
Yeah, it's like that Nietzsche quote, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." But Frankl takes it even further.
He's not just talking about surviving, he's talking about thriving.
Right, finding meaning even when faced with death.
And he makes it clear that the meaning of life, it's not the same for everyone.
No, it's different for each person. And it can even change from moment to moment.
It's not about finding this one big universal answer.
No, it's about discovering what makes your life meaningful, personally.
It's about that individual journey of discovery.
Exactly.
And speaking of that journey, Frankl outlines these 3 specific ways we can find meaning.
Yeah, let's dive into those, shall we? He talks about finding meaning through work,
Okay.
through experiences and relationships,
Right.
and through our attitude towards suffering.
Those are some pretty big areas to cover.
They are, but they offer a really helpful framework for understanding how we can find meaning in a world that often feels pretty meaningless.
Let's start with work. That seems like a good place to begin.
Okay, so finding meaning through work It might seem pretty straightforward at first,
Yeah, just get a job, right.
but it goes deeper than that. It's about contributing to something bigger than yourself, finding purpose in what you do,
Yeah.
even if it's not your dream job.
So it's not necessarily about the specific job, it's more about the mindset you bring to it.
Exactly. It's about using your talents and skills to make a difference, no matter how big or small.
I like that.
And then we have finding meaning through experiences and relationships. And this one really emphasizes the importance of human connection. It's about being present in the moment, appreciating the beauty of the world around us, connecting with others on a deeper level.
Those are all good things.
Yeah, it's about savoring the richness of life, even in the midst of suffering.
I can get behind that.
And then, of course, we have the third avenue, which we touched on earlier, finding meaning through our attitude towards unavoidable suffering.
Right.
This one might seem like the toughest, but it's really powerful.
It really speaks to the resilience of the human spirit.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that suffering is a part of life, but we have the power to choose how we respond to it.
It's about making meaning out of those tough times, right?
Yeah, and letting those experiences transform us into something stronger, more compassionate, more human.
It's like turning our wounds into wisdom.
Exactly.
It's striking how Frankl doesn't shy away from the spiritual side of this search for meaning.
Yeah, he even talks about attending a spiritualistic seance in the camp.
Really? Wow.
It just shows that even in the most desperate situations, people still yearn for connection and transcendence.
And while he doesn't explicitly define what meaning is, he emphasizes that it's a deeply personal thing, something we each have to discover for ourselves.
Right. But he also highlights the importance of responsibility.
What do you mean?
He believed that realizing our responsibility to life could be a powerful motivator in finding meaning.
Interesting. So it's about taking ownership of our lives and choosing how we respond to challenges, embracing the freedom that comes with that responsibility.
Exactly. It's not about just accepting our fate passively. It's about actively shaping our lives.
Okay, that makes sense. But it also leads to a bigger question. How do we apply these ideas to our own lives?
Yeah.
Especially those of us who haven't faced the kind of suffering Frankl went through.
Right. How do we take these ideas and make them relevant to our everyday lives?
It's true, most of us, thankfully, will never experience anything like a concentration camp.
Right.
But we all have our own struggles, our own challenges that can feel just as overwhelming sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's where, I think Frankl's message becomes even more powerful.
Okay.
He's saying that even in those everyday struggles, those moments that feel really tough,
Yeah.
we can still choose to find meaning.
We don't have to let those challenges define us.
Exactly. We can embrace that tragic optimism and live with a sense of purpose.
It's about more than just getting by.
Right. It's about really living.
I appreciate that Frankl's book, it's not like a how-to guide,
Oh, for sure.
It's not telling you exactly how to find meaning in your life.
No, it's more like an invitation to look inside yourself,
Okay.
to really examine what matters to you, what your values are.
So it's about asking yourself those big questions.
Exactly. Like, what makes life worth living for you? What are you passionate about? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
And Frankl encourages us to actively participate in this search for meaning.
Yes.
It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you have to work at, strive for.
Right. He challenges us to find meaning in our work, in our relationships, and even in how we face suffering.
And he reminds us that even when things are really tough, we still have that strength inside of us, that resilience.
He really highlights that human capacity for resilience.
It's about finding those glimmers of purpose in the everyday messiness of life.
Exactly. And realizing that meaning, it's not this grand prize you get at the end of some long, difficult journey.
Okay.
It's about those small moments of connection, those opportunities for growth that we find along the way.
So it's not about waiting for life to hand you meaning. It's about creating it yourself.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's one of the most powerful messages in the book.
I agree.
We're not just passive bystanders in our own lives.
Right. We have the power to choose our attitude, to find a reason to keep going,
Even in the face of suffering.
especially in the face of suffering.
Frankl really emphasizes that our lives have meaning right up until the very end.
He does, and that we can make those final moments matter.
That's a pretty profound thought.
It is, and it kind of ties back to this idea that man's search for meaning isn't a self-help book in the traditional sense.
Right, it's not giving you a step-by-step plan.
No, it's more of a philosophical exploration.
I see.
It's about understanding the human condition and recognizing that this search for meaning, it's something we all go through.
So it's prompting us to ask those big existential questions.
Yes, like why are we here? What's the purpose of suffering? How can we live a life that truly feels meaningful?
And the answers to those questions, they're not found in material possessions or external circumstances.
No, they're found within ourselves,
Okay.
in our values, our relationships, the choices we make every single day.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into man's search for meaning,
Hmm.
I think it's important to emphasize that Frankl's message, it's not just for people who've gone through extreme suffering.
No, absolutely not.
It's for all of us, everyone who's searching for a more meaningful life.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that we all have that ability to find meaning no matter what challenges we face.
It's about embracing life, the good and the bad, and making a conscious choice to live with purpose.
Frankl's book, it's more than just a story of survival.
It really is.
It's a testament to the power of the human spirit.
A beacon of hope in the face of despair.
And it's a reminder that we always have a choice in how we respond to life's challenges.
And that within those challenges, there's opportunity for growth, for connection, for finding meaning.
So keep searching, keep exploring, and keep finding meaning in your own unique and extraordinary life. It's pretty amazing how much discussion man's search for meaning has, sparked over the years.
Yeah, it really gets people thinking, doesn't it?
It really dives into some big questions about what it means to be human, about resilience.
For sure.
What do you think is the most, significant takeaway from all this?
I think for me, it's that that reminder that we're not just defined by our circumstances.
Okay.
We always have a choice.
Yeah.
Even when things are really tough, like unimaginably tough, like what Frankl went through,
Yeah.
we can still choose to find meaning, to hold on to our dignity, to live with purpose.
It's a powerful message.
It really is. It's a message of hope.
It challenges us to, look beyond our immediate situation and search for that deeper meaning.
Exactly. It's about more than just surviving. It's about truly living.
And I think it's great that Frankl's book, it's not like some quick fix self-help book,
No, not at all.
It's not like, here are 10 steps to find meaning in your life.
Right. It's more of a philosophical exploration.
Yeah.
It encourages us to understand ourselves, to recognize how important this search for meaning really is.
It's like he's giving us a map and saying, okay, here's the territory, now you go explore.
I love that analogy.
It's not about finding one right answer.
No.
It's about learning how to navigate all the complexities of life to make choices that are right for you.
Exactly. Choices that align with your values and your purpose.
So it's not about finding the answer, it's about finding your answer.
Precisely. And this search, it's not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's a lifelong journey with all its twists and turns, but it's that commitment to the search itself that really matters.
So for our listeners, what are some things they can take away from all this? What would you say to someone who's feeling lost, like they don't have a sense of purpose?
I'd say think about those 3 avenues Frankl talks about.
Work, relationships, attitude towards suffering.
Exactly. Start with your work.
Okay.
How can you approach it with more purpose, even if it's not your dream job?
Yeah,
How can you use your skills to contribute to something bigger than yourself?
those are good questions.
And then think about your relationships.
Okay,
Are you really present with the people you care about?
that's a good one.
Make an effort to connect on a deeper level. Put down your phone, turn off the TV, just be there with them.
Simple but important.
And then there's that idea of finding meaning in suffering, which I know can feel really hard.
Yeah, especially when you're going through it.
It's definitely the toughest one, but it also has the potential for huge growth.
Okay.
It's about understanding that suffering is a part of life, but it doesn't have to control you. It's about choosing to find meaning in those experiences, learning from them, and using them to become a stronger, more compassionate person.
Frankl really makes you think about those tough questions.
He does.
He doesn't shy away from the reality of suffering
No, he wants us to confront it
and find a way to make peace with it.
and even find purpose within it.
So it's about changing how we look at suffering.
Exactly. Not pretending it's not there, but choosing how we respond to it.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into man's search for meaning, the big takeaway is that Frankl's message, it's universal.
Absolutely.
It's not just for people who have been through trauma.
No.
It's for anyone looking for a more meaningful life.
It's a reminder that we all have the ability to be resilient, to find meaning even in the darkest times.
And to embrace life fully with all its ups and downs and choose to live with purpose.
Frankl's book is a testament to how strong the human spirit can be.
It's a reminder that even in the face of terrible suffering, we still have the freedom to choose our attitude, to find meaning,
and to live a life that matters.
So keep searching, keep exploring, and keep finding meaning in your own life.
It's a journey worth taking.
And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.